Hi guys, Francois here with Roel.
Hey guys.
Live from Mobility Field Day. So we're actually in my room. We just wanted to record a quick recap of some of the sessions we actually attended this week. And in this quick video, we're going to talk about 7Signal. They actually just presented as we speak right now. And yeah, 7Signal was the first time they came back to Mobility Field Day since 2013.
Yeah,
so
a long time ago.
A long time ago. So they actually started by talking about what they've been working on since 2013. And then they talked about the future as well and in terms of what they're looking at doing with their solution. So Roa, why don't you just talk a little bit about what they offer?
Yeah, so what they're offering for clients, they have 15 patents that they have under 7Signal, and they already have over 300 clients, and a lot of those customers are big brand names that we know, and they offer a software agent called Mobile Eye that is installed in almost all
OS.
All OSs. They got a Windows, a Mac OS client, an Android client. They are not in the iOS just because of the limitations of the software there, but they also have a appliance, not an appliance, but it looks like an access point, which they call Sapphire Eye, which is their little
monitoring
sensor, network sensor that they can deploy either on the ceiling. I think they actually prefer you install it on the ceiling to get a bigger area that it could hear, and it performs a lot of data collection is what we saw in their video or in their presentation.
Yeah, so what they're trying to do is monitor how the Wi-Fi is doing. So with the Sapphire Eye, their standalone hardware device that they deploy, they have kind of two modes of operation. They have the passive mode where they'll just do pretty much packet captures and then feed all of that data back into their cloud so they can analyze the packet captures, analyze the Wi-Fi, the traffic, channel utilization, these type of things. And then they have the active mode where they could actually convert that piece of hardware as a client and do connection, association, DHCP request, all application testing, pretty much simulate a client. So they can kind of validate how the infrastructure is responding to clients connecting. So that's the Sapphire end of it. It's kind of like the sensor, like you said, which is pretty nice. And then the Mobile Eye is interesting because it gets installed directly on the device. So they're actually analyzing how the specific client Wi-Fi driver is operating and sending all of that data back into their cloud so they can do analysis on how client devices are seeing the Wi-Fi, RSSI, all of that information that we don't get from the AP. They're able to get it and send it to their dashboard, which is very interesting. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, because they used Kaiser Permanente as a use case, because at Kaiser they have a lot of these mobile carts that are like laptops, computers on carts that communicate over Wi-Fi. So it's important for Kaiser to understand how that client is performing and what the health is of that client over Wi-Fi. So that way they can, the IT team can provide a better user experience. And so in their example that they were giving us, they were getting data like roaming. What is the roaming like for that device? And it would give you like a green, yellow, or red kind of status, and then you could, in that timeline, kind of see what's happening and see, okay, here's the RSSI, here's when it roamed, where did it roam to, what was like did they show like the nearby APs as well for that device?
Yes.
So there was quite a lot of data from the client perspective because of the agent, the Mobile Eye agent.
Yeah, and they have in the dashboard, you can always rewatch the presentation on the Tech Field Day YouTube channel. But yeah, they have a lot of data from the client. So like you said, they have, you have the roaming threshold. So if the client was above or below their roaming threshold, if they were discovering APs around with this, sufficient RSSI, the driver version that they are running. So if they're not roaming, but they're supposed to roam, then you can try to look at this data and try to take action, which is pretty nice. And Jim Vajda, who was presenting the demo showed us a feature where you can actually take all of the data that the client is sending you, export it as a CSV, and then import it into Wi-Fi Explorer, so you can actually visualize the data in Wi-Fi Explorer. If you guys are used to the way the data is displayed, it's nice to be able to use that tool.
Yeah, and that data that you export from the Mobile Eye agent, it's really just like a scan that it does from the device perspective. So you're not going to see advanced details within Wi-Fi Explorer like you would do, like see all the beacons and all that. It's just a network scan, but you could grab things like load. You could see what the channel utilization was like in that given area. So it is useful data. I did ask if you're going to export that data and show it in Wi-Fi Explorer, why not just show it to me in the dashboard? But it is a lot of data that can be displayed. I'm sure there's other things they could display as well, because they are collecting so much data that I start wondering about device types and how they perform over Wi-Fi and across different driver versions as well. So I think that's data that can eventually be graphed and trended over time.
So that's one thing they talked about. Then they talked about the new metrics that they added to the dashboard, and one that was interesting was the MCS. So they were tried to figuring out the MCS used by the clients to have an idea of how the RF environment is doing, because if clients are using high MCS, it kind of tells us that the RF environment is
good quality
healthy.
Connection. Yeah,
exactly. So Jim was talking about that some client devices will just give you the MCS right away, like Mac OS, but other devices like Windows, they give you like a score, like a 85%. So they
reverse engineer that information in order to get the score that they're trying to develop, and their score is more like a Wi-Fi health score that they want to standardize across all the devices, right? And they did settle on MCS because of, instead of trying to base it on the varying data rates that are out there, because there's a lot of data rates, MCS is that one score that we can rely on. The
modulation.
The modulation is what they're really looking at to determine the quality of that signal.
Yeah, so that was interesting to see that inside the tool. And then they talked about Wi-Fi 6, and in all of their stat, they're actually seeing right now that most of the highest, the most common PHY that we see out there is AC now. And then the second most popular is N. And then Wi-Fi, so AX comes in third position right now. So it's interesting to see that we're still not at a point where we have majority of the devices being Wi-Fi 6.
But I'm not sure if that's because of the industry. Like, they didn't go into the percentage of industries they are in, right? If you're in healthcare, you're probably not going to see an influx of newer devices show up. And I can see why N is maybe more prominent, because they're not updating those devices as often. But if you're doing large public venue, you're probably going to see more of the latest devices, and that's where you're able to see Wi-Fi 6 devices more often, and mostly mobile devices there. So it is dependent on the industry you're in, but they are also in distribution centers, warehouses, retail. So I guess for 7Signal, it's more operational for them and not necessarily a tool that's used to just mitigate a problem. It fits into different teams' workflows, especially teams that are lean and they don't have a lot of people to go send out to figure out various issues, or they don't have that many Wi-Fi experts on staff. So they need a tool to be able to break this data down and also collect that much data in order to make some business decisions. And I can see that happening, especially if you can trend all that data and be able to say, you know what, this device that we're using, we need to upgrade it. Why don't we test some of those, be able to trend that data on that device and make a decision on if you should be spending millions of dollars upgrading your scanners, for example.
Yeah, so it's more for the operational, and it also helps the operational team to be more aware of how the different devices can have impact on the Wi-Fi, which is nice.
Yeah, and they did mention for retail, the point of sale systems, there's really no one there on site to help troubleshoot, so they rely on the agent to be able to tell them what's happening for that point of sale system and do those even synthetic tests to make sure it's working.
And for the future, what they're actually currently working on for the future, they talked about a couple of things. They talked about, going wider and deeper. So if I understood, it's like starting looking at other technologies than Wi-Fi, maybe IoT, other technologies like this. And they also wanted to get more connected with other systems, so having APIs so they can retrieve data from external systems, but also send their own data to external systems. So maybe we can have integration between data coming from the AP manufacturers on how the AP sees the network, and then their data coming up from the client device perspective to kind of do some correlation in the future. So that I found that was very interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was a good move to mention that. I mean, we'll see how the APIs eventually end up interacting with other systems, but being able to have the full conversation now, if you've got your cloud native wireless system and then network sensors as well, you could marry the two and have now the full conversation where the issue is, and maybe both systems, maybe the network sensors can feed into the wireless system to help improve and optimize your configuration.
Yeah, and I think with 6 gigahertz, we're going to have more and more differences between the downlink and the uplink. So that's going to be even more important for 6 gigahertz. And they talked about actually coming up with a 6 gigahertz sensor for next year, for 2023.
They'll have a 6 gigahertz version of their Sapphire Eye. And so moving forward, they talked more about the part where they mentioned going deeper is being able to connect with their clients a lot more, and being able to listen to them to develop more solutions specifically to help them out further.
For the use cases,
the use case, make the dashboards more improved so you see the information you need to see, and then exposing more of that data more broadly is what he mentioned. And I'm not sure if that's just sharing that data out more widely. I know they share data through their webinars, but I don't think they actively publish documents that say, here are the top 3 devices that work the best on a Wi-Fi network. I don't know.
That would be touchy to do.
Yeah, that's a sensitive move for a vendor to do that. But overall, I thought the 7Signal presentation was good. Jim that was his first time presenting, but he answered questions completely, was able to provide us the answers we needed, didn't go around any of the questions. And the rest of his team, Simon was good as well, and then there was a third person that was more of in the background but was able to answer questions that we had.
Yeah, so overall it was pretty good. You can find the recordings on the Tech Field Day YouTube video if you want to actually rewatch it, and then let us know what you think. And if you're actually using 7Signal, just let us know how you use it and if you find any value using it.
All right. Thanks, guys.